I want to welcome you to the Pro Mindset Podcast. The Pro Mindset Podcast is all about diving into the headspace that results in championship performance. High-performing athletes, winners, have this mental flow and have a positive headspace for their performances and success. Join me, Craig Domann, sports attorney and NFL agent, on this podcast. I will interview pro athletes, college athletes, football coaches, and sports personalities. Together, we can discover how you can get in the flow and have your own pro mindset. So today on Pro Mindset, we have a longtime friend, former NFL player, Kansas City Chief, Eric Warfield. Eric, welcome you today to our show.
Thanks for having me on, big guy.
All right. So, Warfield, I got to kind of give everybody a little bit of a background. I met you in, I think it was 1997 when you were playing safety at the University of Nebraska. You ended up getting drafted by the Chiefs in the 7th round of that draft. Was it 98? Did you get drafted in 98?
It was the 98 draft, yep.
98 draft. How many national championships did you win in Nebraska?
Got 2 there.
You won 2. Okay.
Well, I was on the team with 2 of those, and I was with Nebraska in 94, but due to the, Prop 48 thing, I had to sit that first year.
Okay. So you got 2 national championship rings, though.
Yep.
Not too many people walking the planet that have 2 of those. Let's go way back in time. Talk about the brotherhood. Talk about T.O., your head coach. Talk about what was the secret sauce that the University of Nebraska had back in the mid-'90s, in addition to having talent, because you guys obviously had talent, that allowed you to beat the Miamis and the Florida States of the world and be the national champion?
You know, I have to give credit to Coach Osborne and for his way of connecting with each individual player, making them feel special. A lot of those guys, I mean, especially like for myself, coming from a single-parent household, you don't have a father around. And he signified all that we were missing, you know, that encouragement, spiritual guidance, that keep you steered in the right direction when things seem to be falling apart. He took time to get to know you, your background, your family, where you're from. And when you have a guy like that stands behind you like that, you're willing to go out and give him all that you have and more to get the job done. And it seems to me like when I got there, we did have a lot of great athletes. I don't think we had a lot of 5-star guys. We weren't like the Alabamas now or the Clemson teams with all these, you know, high-profile All-American kids. But we had a good group of talent. Our coaching staff, they got the most out of us, and I think it all started. Well, I won't say think. I'm pretty sure it all started with Coach Osborne and how he accepted and made you feel special out on the field.
So you're talking about T.O. and the connection and the relationship that he had with his players, and you're believing that was the secret sauce that helped you guys be champions. Well, when you were describing T.O., I was thinking of Dick Vermeil. You had a coach in Kansas City that kind of was like that. How would you compare Dick Vermeil as a head coach and the relationship that he had with his players to Tom Osborne?
All the same. Spiritually, somewhat different. But as far as that father figure and that person that takes the time to get to know his players individually, inside and out, that was Coach Vermeil 100%. I still keep in touch with both of those guys to this day. Every holiday, I try to send them a message, and out of the blue, you know, just hey, just thinking of you, and it's reciprocated. So, lifelong relationship has been built. But yeah, those 2 guys have a lot of similarities as far as getting to know their players and getting the best out of them. You know, Coach Vermeil's won a couple of Super Bowls and during his lifetime, and Coach Osborne with his national championship. So they know how to put the teams together to get the most out of their players.
Okay, Eric, so let's go to your rookie year with Kansas City Chiefs. You made it out of the blocks, and they moved you to corner. What was it like when you had your first opportunity in a real NFL game, if you can even remember back that far? You're playing press man against a Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, or one of those kind of guys.
So that was a scary thing. You know, I was a fan of Randy's, watching him play in college, and to see the things that he was doing, it was amazing. Like, the guy was fun to watch. And then to know that practices were going to be in River Falls, and we would have to match up against the Vikings. I felt the challenge. I felt the challenge before we even touched the field. And I was scared of it, not going to lie. This is my first time having to guard a guy one-on-one and then a guy of that talent. So I was nervous, scared, didn't really know if I had what it took. But I had a good group of coaches, player coaches, that kind of showed me how to maximize my talents. And with those three guys, I got to get an ounce from each one because they were all so different. James Hasty was a big guy that was very physical, and so that's how I learned my press coverage. Dale Hasty was just an all-around talent that was 100 miles an hour no matter what, gifted, talented, that I had to take a few things from him. And Mark McMillan, short, had to use his quickness and his intelligence to put him in the right position to be successful. So I had all three of these guys to learn from, and by the time I stepped on the field, some of that anxiety was kind of wearing down, but yet I still know I have to go out here and match up against this guy. And on top of that, you got all the media out there going to be, scrutinizing or whatever else. But the most important part, I got to make the team. So I got to go out and do what I can do and try to shut this guy down. And I think it was a preseason game that we had against them, and he caught a touchdown in the end zone. And it was an unbelievable touchdown. I don't think he had that many yards receiving against me. That one big touchdown that kind of opened my eyes to who he really was and the talent that he had. So scary, yes. And he torched a lot of guys during his time in the NFL. I was kind of fortunate that I didn't get in a lot of his highlights, but I enjoyed the competition competing against him.
Okay, so now that we're talking about players, who was the toughest receiver for you to guard when you played in the NFL? And why was he the toughest?
I would have to go with Marvin Harrison. Marvin, mostly because of his size and his quickness. To make that worse, his relationship with Peyton. Those guys worked at their own pace. There's a route tree, and I don't care what kind of offense you run, those 9 routes are going to be ran at all times. But with Marvin, Peyton would sit there and he just pat that ball until he found that opportunity. And Marvin would break some of his routes at yardages that they're not supposed to be broken off at, or he do a shake move that is not a part of that route. So they had their relationship to where one knew where the other was always going to be and where the ball was going to come and how to get open. So they were a tough match to go up against. Marvin proved to be a Hall of Fame receiver, and also what Peyton has done, one of the top 3 best quarterbacks of all time. So having to go up against him and then having Peyton Manning throwing the ball, easily the hardest task for me to have been a part of.
Well, I remember being at a game, sitting by your mom, I think it was the playoffs, and you guys were hosting the Colts and Peyton and Marvin Harrison. And I think you guys went 13-3 that year. And all I remember was, I don't know if it was in overtime, I don't know if it was late in the fourth quarter, Marvin and Peyton were doing their mumbo-jumbo sign language back and forth. And then I think Marvin might have did a double move on you for a long completion. But it was like, those guys were magical.
Exactly what it is. And to take that from it, their overall team worked well together. They put a good team together for Peyton, and he was a great fit for it. And what Marvin was able to do out on the field, and those two I can't say those two because, they had Dallas Clark and
Reggie Wayne,
Edgerrin James, and Reggie Wayne. They had a great group, great cast of players. I guess was that the no punt game that we had? That neither offense punted the ball.
It might have been. I mean, it was a crazy game. It was a back and forth game.
But also on top of that game, though, Craig, I know most people have no clue, but I ended up sitting in the first game, the last game of the season. I think it was against Chicago Bears, and then we had a bye week. I probably shouldn't have played in that game just because my back was so screwed up and just had an epidural shot, but we didn't have any other corner that we could stick out there. So I wasn't physically able to perform, but the coaches called my number, and I tried to do whatever I could to give them on the field. So I don't want to make an excuse, but after that game, I think that was the same year that I went into surgery, back surgery. So do I feel like I kind of robbed us of an opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl a little bit? But
I wouldn't think that. I mean, here's the thing. Fans, they don't even know how many guys on Sundays, especially late in the season, have to go because the coaches want them to go when they're not even close to 100%.
Yep.
And every now and then you can get caught in a tough spot because you're in a big play and you might be on the wrong end of that big play that you could have made, but for the fact you weren't healthy. So the funny thing about NFL fans is they expect the players to be at 100% every single week. And football is one of those sports where you play a lot of games when you're not 100%.
Oh, yeah. And I've never mentioned this to anybody, like told that story of that was the year that I had back surgery. Like, no one's ever known that. I sat when I went to our alumni game this season, this last year, and I was talking with Priest Holmes. Priest didn't even know. And I could have sworn, like, majority of the guys on that I was playing with on the team knew that I had a screwed up back. And I was sitting there talking with Priest, and he's like, man, you know what? I never knew.
Isn't that crazy?
So that kind of shocked me. And then to have the fans, like, I can get on Twitter right now, look up your name, and you still see guys talking bad about how bad of a player you were. It sucks to read, but if only they knew the things that you went through.
Warfield, you were not a bad player. You were a hell of a player. Here's the deal.
I know
you
that,
played
Craig, but
Here's the thing, Eric. Hang on, man. Hang on. You got to understand. You play a position almost like a long snapper. Nobody knows who the long snapper is until he makes a bad snap. And the corners, unless you get a pick, all they do is hate on you because you're giving up completions all the time.
Yeah.
Well, the NFL's rules are set up for completions. Everybody wants to see the scoreboard light up. Everybody wants to see big points. And who's always on the wrong end of that? It's always a corner or a DB. So if you would go back and look at all the times you got beat for touchdowns, holy smokes, I don't know how many it was, but it was a bunch. That was part of your job. The real key to playing the position that you played is having a short memory. How did you develop a short memory to be able to play corner and to be able to come back from those times when you gave up a big touchdown? Because you did. Everybody does.
Well, and that, for me, came during the course of practice. You have guys out there that are on the practice squad. Yeah, they're going to catch passes. They're going to beat you at times. But that's not going to interrupt who you are as a player, though. And so that's not going to stop you from going out there trying to become better than what you were on the last play. So the course of practice is what gave me that ability to just forget the last play, move on. You got a whole game ahead of you, an entire season ahead of you. So don't sit there and dwell on this last play because you gave up a touchdown or you gave up a big play. That's done and over with. You can't go back and change that.
No doubt. No doubt. So in 2002, when you became an unrestricted free agent, you hit the payday with Kansas City Chiefs. What changed? Not just your bank account, but what changed in the eyes of your coaches and the fans with respect to expectations? Did you feel any change?
Expectations. Expectations, number one. My confidence had changed. To be honest, my opinion, I felt like there was a time or two where I had been snubbed on the Pro Bowl ballot. I've watched a lot of those guys in the AFC and the defenses that they've played with and the defenses that they've run, like Miami, man under. They're just going to trail in whatever short routes that are thrown or bad passes. That's an interception. Those guys are in the Pro Bowl every year. Charles Woodson, I think one particular year, I thought I had a better year than him. And because who he is, he's put in there. Ty Law was always a great corner. So I can't argue about what he was doing. Champ Bailey was great. Champ's doing a great job every year. But, yes, I felt like I could have been up there with some of those guys that were making the Pro Bowl, but yet was never mentioned. And so my confidence was there. Did I have the defense to help me out to get to those guys' status? I don't know. I hate to say that the guys that I played with weren't as good as other players who had alongside them. I love and enjoyed every moment that I had with each individual that I played with. So I won't sit there and put those guys down and say that I didn't have as good of a team. But, yeah, we didn't have any Pro Bowlers when I played. We didn't have those standout guys.
I would say almost during that entire, your entire career in Kansas City, they focused more on the offense. You had Tony Gonzalez, Will Shields, Brian Waters, Priest Holmes, Trent Green. It seemed like it was favored towards the offense. No different than Indianapolis. They favored to their offense too. And so I think that, to be fair to you and to everybody out there that plays in the NFL or has played, the Pro Bowl balloting kind of goes in waves. And if you have a really strong defense, 5 guys go. maybe only 3 deserve to go, but 5 guys go. And there's 2 guys that are deserving on another team, but because their offense carried the team, they didn't get to go. There were a couple years where you balled out. You were like one of the top guys in the league, and it just didn't seem like the defensive guys on your team got the recognition.
Nope.
That's pretty normal. Okay, Eric, talk about one of your big pivot points in your career. Because when guys come into the NFL, they think it's about X. Sometimes later they find out it's about Y. And they have to get more serious. They have to be more committed. They have to work harder. Everything includes more, okay? And what was that point in your career where you're like, man, I can really make money. I can build a career. And what was that pivot point for you?
I want to say it was a game against Tennessee in Tennessee. Barty was on the other side, and he was just having a horrible game. And he came to me and basically told me, man to man, I can't do it. Could you please have Peter put somebody else in for me? And I had to speak to him like, look, they brought you in there for a reason, man. You got to be confident. Everybody's going to have a bad game. I'm not going to tell Peter to switch you out and put somebody else in because that's going to ruin you for the entire season. So just buckle down and let's finish this game. I think we ended up losing that game. But at that point, I had to realize that I wasn't just a starter, that I was a leader, and that my word kind of meant something to that defense. And so I knew that there was things that even in meetings, I had to speak up. I had to help out, show guys the way, help them understand, teach them the little key points of what to look for, whatever I did to get where I was at. Before then, it was just Eric going out there having fun, either on and off the field and enjoying life. Bad play came. You know, you move on from it. Bad game. But after that, it was one of those teaching moments to where, or even an understanding moment to where it's like, okay, this is where you are now. Like, you're not just a part of this team, you're one of the leaders. So I think I was probably one of the highest paid on the defense also. So I knew I had to step up and show more than talking about it.
Gotcha. Your pivot point was when you realized that it was more than just about you. It was about
Exactly.
A lot of guys have temptations. You had them too. Everybody that goes in the league has them, whether it's with spending, whether it's with girls, whether it's with free time, whether it's with other stuff. If you're sitting there talking to a young man who's caught up in this whole virus thing and is getting ready to get drafted in 2020, regardless of position he plays, what would you tell him to do and not to do as he embarks on his NFL career?
Prepare for your post career. Live like you would. I can't say live like you were living in college because obviously things are going to change. The more you sit up there and want to tell yourself you're not going to change as an individual, you have no choice. Like, just your status alone is going to change who you are and the lifestyle that you live. But you don't have to go out and buy the biggest house, the fanciest cars, have the designer closets of shoes and clothes. You have to prepare yourself for the career after football. And I've seen it with way too many of my colleagues that I played with, guys that are struggling to get by, guys that have no money because they didn't set themselves up for after football. There's a lot of money involved, and you would think to yourself, there's no way I could spend it all. Believe me, once you get caught up in it, you don't even realize the money that you're spending and what the money that you're saving. So I was fortunate enough to have a best friend come along to help me out with mine. But I think like the most important part would be to think about your career after football, what you want to do, and make sure you're financially set for when your career is done, because you never know when you're going to be done. You know, some guys come in thinking they're going to have a long 9-10 year plus and end up with 3 or 4. So just make sure that you set yourself up to where you're financially stable after your career is over.
Okay, Eric, walk me through the adrenaline high that you have playing in front of the Arrowhead fans. They're some of the best fans in the NFL, and maybe kind of share with the audience, you know, you playing against the Raiders in Oakland and playing all over the league during the course of your career. What was special about Arrowhead, and what was the place that you least liked to play on the road and why?
What's special about Arrowhead? That would be kind of biased because I think every person would say that where they played at was always the best place because they always had the fan support. But even with talking to other players and other fans, KC is still one of their top places to visit. They love the atmosphere. They love the fan support. They love the food there. To me, just easily one of the better places that I've played. It's not all torn up or painted. So, I mean, I guess I can go on and on about it, but to me, it's easily one of the better places. Now, the worst to play on was the Raiders in San Diego, just because you're playing on a baseball field and you have a lot of that dirt that doesn't feel good when you fall on it. Fan-wise, I have to say the Broncos. Now, ever since college, Colorado has had some of the worst fans. Like, those guys are brutal. Like, they say and do whatever out there. And I think when I was in college, Colorado still had alcohol sold in the stadium or the stands. So to hear some of the conversations that some of those people would have about players was brutal. Like, it would touch you to the point of frustration. I think Oakland was a little overrated with their fan base and how they dressed up for the end zone. Like, a lot of those people in that end zone with those face masks and paint. A lot of them were nice. Pat you on the back, have a conversation with you, say that they enjoy watching you play, whatever. But the Broncos and their fans, that was probably the hardest place ever because you'd hear and some of anything coming from those fans.
Okay, Eric, pro mindset, and I talk about belief, passion, motivation, train hard, have a great lifestyle, have winnable habits, and be a clutch performer. That's my 7-step platform for maximizing anybody in any career, especially if you're an NFL guy. What was your mindset like when you would get ready for training camp? What was your mindset like when you were going into the opening season to play the first real game? What was your mindset like, even before a play when you're going against like Chris Carter or somebody that's pretty good? And what was your mindset like in the playoffs? Just kind of go through the spectrum of what was going through your head. How did you prepare? How did you think? How did you put yourself in a position so that you could be successful?
Going into training camp, I don't want to say it was easy, but for some reason, I stayed active 24/7. You would always catch me in the gym, playing basketball, working out with the fellas, just doing something active. So going in, I knew I was always prepared. But the first couple of years, I didn't know what to expect. So that's when you follow with the vets, and they kind of show you the ropes. But then again, like I just kind of fit in with those older guys, and they easily brought me along to groom me and show me the things that were needed to be successful. The season, always nervous because you never know what to expect. You have all these expectations of yourself that you hope that you can live up to, but you never know until those lights come on. And depending on the guys that you're up against, there's a challenge each and every day. The hardest part for me was trying to stay focused when I had to go up against a guy that was not a big-time athlete because it's like I lost focus. And the next thing you know, I'm giving up a 60-yard touchdown. So that was the one thing that I needed to work on and needed someone to keep me focused with because throughout my career, I think that was the most challenging part was trying to stay focused when I had to guard somebody that was not big time. You go up against the Terrell Owenses and the Randy Mosses, and you feel like this is your moment to shine. So you're locked in, and no matter what happens, no matter what anybody says, your focus is to try your best to shut these guys down. So that was where I was at as far as like who I played big name wise, and kind of losing focus with the guys that weren't big time. Wish I had known or
Eric, hang on a second,
that then, but go ahead.
I gotta share something with you. I can remember going to the joint practices you guys had with the Vikings every year, and I went one or 2 years when you were playing. And Randy was there for the Vikings. Chris Carter was there, and then they had some guy that was a undrafted rookie free agent, some white dude that they probably picked up from Mankato or somewhere.
Uh-huh.
And I'd be watching you, and you would shut Randy down. Then this is just in one-on-ones. And then you go against this guy that wasn't drafted, and he would just toast you.
Yep.
And I'd be like, what happened? Dude, this guy can't carry Randy Moss's jock. And it was all that you had the habit of mirroring the talent you played against. So when you played a big-time guy, you played big time. You played an average guy, you kind of played down to that level. And then when you had a guy that wouldn't know anybody, I don't know where your head was on the field because I wasn't in your head, but it's like you didn't have that same focus and intensity that you had when you were covering a Jerry Rice.
That's true.
So,
I mean, I can remember vividly times during those practices to where Randy would be like, come on, 44, you got to calm it down, man. Like, this is just practice. And I'm like, I know who you are. I know what you're about. So, yeah, I'm going to step my game up. But he would be upset because I'm a physical corner and I jam up the line of scrimmage, and then that's what he doesn't want. And, yes, I do focus in more when it comes to those type of guys because I know that's ESPN. I don't want to be on someone's highlight. I can remember sitting here watching with my brother. We were watching Cincinnati game, and I had an ankle boot on because I had rolled my ankle and I had a high ankle sprain. And every time I was up against Ocho Cinco, never threw him the ball. They never threw the ball his way. And then the one time they threw the ball his way, it was a pass interference on him. He pushed off. Then there was another route they threw his way. It was like a short 8 route. He caught it. I made the tackle. And all of a sudden, I'm up against Peter Ward. And Peter's just like the return guy. Peter's not a receiver. So I slack off. So next thing you know, there's like a bomb down the middle of the field that helps them secure the game because I lost focus on some guy that I'm thinking is just a special teams guy.
Okay, so let's jump into that. Let's dive into that, okay? So now that you're out of the league and you play golf and you still compete, you still play some basketball, if you could go back and do that again and put yourself in a position to shut down every single receiver, regardless of his jersey number, regardless of his team, and regardless of his name or his pedigree or his reputation, shut them all down.
Yep.
You might be in Canton, Ohio. You definitely been in the Pro Bowl a couple times. So what was missing? I mean, you know yourself better than anybody. And when you go play golf, just because it's an easy putt, you gonna not try to make it?
No. So I've had this conversation too. My thing, Craig, is I was afraid of greatness. I knew I was just an athlete. Any sport that I play, I knew I could play. I knew I could be good.
You were a freak. You were an unbelievable athlete.
But I
basketball.
Never gave myself the chance to be great. And for whatever reason.
Okay, dude, I got asked. Why not? I mean, at the time, you don't know. I know, but dang it. Now that you look back, you got to know what you're afraid of. Not just greatness. Why were you afraid of greatness?
I didn't want to be put on that pedestal to be knocked off. I could accept the career at the time. I could accept the career that I was having and being scrutinized for giving up a touchdown, getting beat on this play, for doing this off-the-field incident. I could accept that. But then to be put up there with the best players, I didn't know if I could hold myself on that pedestal to accept all the initiatives that came with it. I wasn't ready for everything I did to be in the paper, on the news, even to be in the Pro Bowl. Even though I felt like I may have been snubbed, I was okay with it. I didn't give myself that talk to, hey, we know what we can do to get there. We know what we're missing. Do it. No, I just went on into the next season. I didn't do all that extra work. Stayed in the basketball gym for whatever reason. I don't know. I was afraid of greatness.
Well, I think one of the things you may have been afraid of is the scrutiny and the expectations. You were very talented. You were gifted. You had a lot of athleticism. It came easy for you. And if you put yourself out there, and let's say you did go to the Pro Bowl, then the expectations even go up higher.
Yep.
Then they expected every play. And perhaps in your phase of life you were in at that point while you were playing, you didn't have the wisdom that you have now that, hey, why not? Why not? Let's go for it. If you can handle getting scrutinized for getting beat when you're not in the Pro Bowl, why not get scrutinized for being in the Pro Bowl and getting beat? It's all the same.
Yeah.
You still got beat. You're going to get beat anyway. Guys that are in Canton, Ohio, got their bust in Canton, Ohio that are DBs and corners. They've all been beat like a drum at some point in time in their career. So I don't know what it was either, but I could sense it, but I couldn't put my finger on it at the time. But I appreciate you telling me that, hey, you know, a lot of us are scared of greatness. It's scary.
Yeah.
Because you think everybody's going to expect it every time. You know, you kind of want to fly below the radar sometimes.
Yep.
So, okay. So let's move into you being a mentor. Knowing everything that you've experienced yourself, seeing everything that you have seen your former teammates do, in addition to taking care of their money, because their career never lasts as long as they're hoping for, while they're playing in the league, give them a winning formula for you got to do X, Y, and Z, especially mentally, to maximize your success. Let's say you're talking to one of my boys, you're talking to one of your friends' kids, and you're like coaching them up, you're mentoring them. How can they maximize their opportunity in the NFL?
For one, you have to believe in yourself, but believe that the work that you put in to get to where you are is not a fluke. But once you get there, that's not the end of it. You have to put in the work and effort, because as good as you think that you are, there's guys working every single day. And I never looked at it that way. I just looked at enjoying my life, enjoying the moment, having fun. And I didn't put in the extra work that I should have put in. I didn't think about my post-career. I didn't think about the things that I was doing during my career that would have an effect on other players in my life. And so I just thought that, to be honest, Craig, I never even thought I was a football player. I just thought I was an athlete out there on the football field. I wasn't a big tackler. I wasn't the fastest guy. I didn't have the best hands. I was just an athlete out there playing corner. It was not a position that I had worked out at in high school as a little kid, in college. And like I said, I was just an athlete out there having fun. But for those guys that are trying to make their way, work on your craft, perfect your craft. It doesn't have to be the fastest guy, because those guys are the guys that are making all the money. But those are the guys that are working on their craft. And by that, I mean, like, whatever position that you're gonna play, work at it, understand it inside and out. The more knowledge you have about that position, the better, the more successful you're going to be. I mean, you look at Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, all these other top high-paid people. They're good at what they do. They're not the fastest. They don't jump the highest, but they have an awareness of what they want in life, and that's to be great. So they work on their craft. They're good with their finances, and they take care of themselves. I didn't do that. You know, I got smart after my first year and hired someone to help me with my finances, so that set up me for my post-career. After so long of beating myself up with football and basketball almost every single day, you know, my body gave out, and I had to have back surgery. My awareness of the things that I was doing and people I was around wasn't clear at the time, yet I can look back on it and say, if I had to do this all over again, I would change up so many things, so many of the people that I hung with, my attitude.
Pick one.
Of what I would change?
Yeah, just pick one that you would change and how that would have made a difference.
I think it would be my attitude, and mainly because I really didn't care about the scrutiny, about the extra workouts, about the people that I was with, about the things that I was doing on and off the field, about learning the playbook as much as I should have known. Just my attitude towards everything, towards who I was guarding, who was in front of me, how I was going to play this guy, how I could help the team better with the younger guys, how I could help the team with myself as far as taking better care of myself. eating, working out better. For me, it would absolutely have to be my attitude.
I think one of the things that happened to you, Eric, is you were such an outstanding athlete that so many things came easy for you, that when you were going great versus great, meaning you're a really good player, he's a really good player, you didn't have a mentor or coach or anybody that kind of like poured into you to say, hey, brother, you need to do X. Maybe you did and you didn't listen, but it's like that's what a lot of young players need. Wisdom comes when you're done. It doesn't come when you're in it. If I would ask every single NFL player that's ever played in the NFL that's now done what they would do differently, everybody's got a bunch. Yep. Everybody. It doesn't matter if you're Peyton Manning and you're in the Hall of Fame or any of those kind of guys. They all have things they could have done better. From my perspective, it's making sure that you maximize it while you're there so that when you are done, whatever you wish you would have done better is not a big deal because everybody's got something.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned something about having that coach or whatever that say that you need to work on this. I didn't have those. When we did our playbooks, it was basically, this is our defense, but during these certain games, we need this out of you, Eric. And those expectations were sometimes a little, I thought, overwhelming because of how I've studied the NFL and how I watch other players play. There wasn't a lot of guys that had to go from left to right and even guard the slot the way I had to. I was asked to do certain things different than what the rest of the defense was called for. And that was mainly because I was our best corner. So it wasn't hey, Eric, can we get you to do this training during the off season, during the season, get you to work on this. It was, no, we just need you to go out there, cover this guy. We're going to run the zone defense, so we're going to put you in man. I never had a lot of privilege to get out of situations or to give up a certain route that's going to get us off the field right away because you give them the 8 yards and they need 10, and yet they're punting. I'm in man-to-man, so if they want to run this different route, I either got a PI coming or I got a bigger play coming, or it's going to be a ball defended, a knockdown on my part. So there's a bigger impact.
Yep.
And that's what I got from either Greg or Peter or Gunther. It's like, hey, we need you to do for this defense. We're going to put you in man-to-man on this player, and we need you to shut down this side of the field. Okay, I'm still a guy in transition, my thought. Gotcha. Yes, I knew I made it at some point when I became a starter, but my mindset is still telling me, like, you're still a guy in transition there. You're still learning this position. And for the most part, all they're asking you to do is man-to-man up on a certain guy. When yet there's a defense that needs to be played that's going to stop certain things to limit yardage. But that's not what I was asked. So it made things harder, yet it was something that I had to do.
Okay, Eric, so being in the NFL for a long time, now being out of the NFL for a long time, what is the biggest impact an NFL player has in making an impact on others, whether it's youth, whether it's family, whether it's friends? Where do you see your impact?
To me, I would go with hope, just for the simple fact that I think a lot of us came from troubled backgrounds, the streets, single-parent household, and not even thinking that we'd have a chance. And to have made it to that upper echelon, that elite status, you've opened the door for others to know that they have that same opportunity. I wasn't private school, I was public school. I didn't have a father at home, single mom, single parent, and she did the best to raise us. My mom wasn't at all my sporting events. She had to work and raise 3 kids of her own and along with 3 others. So I think it gives hope, or at least that's what I try to provide whenever I have to speak to most kids. It's like, just because of your situation, don't give up. If you want it, you can make it happen.
Okay, Warfield, you get to ask yourself one question. What would it be?
For me, what I would ask myself, I honestly want to say, why couldn't I get my shit together?
You kind of already answered that one with fear of failure.
True.
You really did, because here's the thing, man. There's the normal temptations that every NFL player has, whether it's fun, whether it's spending their money, whether it's girls, trips, vacations, fun fixes. And you can do all that stuff and still take care of your business, but sometimes guys get distracted because they have so much fun doing those other things, they forget about what got them there. So I think the biggest thing for guys today is just keep the main thing the main thing. You know, it's still football. It's still doing your job. It's still playing your role. And all that other stuff, you got off season, you got weekends, you got bye weeks, you got lots of downtime. Even though NFL players work a lot, they don't come close to working 2,000 hours like the average Joe does.
Oh, I agree. And yes, it is. I don't want to say it is just a game. I mean, it definitely isn't just a game. You could be out within a few years, or you can go and have a 10-plus year career. It's just how you manage the game and take care of yourself. Yes, you want to have fun with it. Yes, you want to be knowledgeable with it, because that's only going to help. If you have a girlfriend going into it, keep her. She will be the best thing to happen to you, to either manage your money, stay away from the BS of the nightlife, and everything else that could go wrong with the NFL. There's a lot of temptation, and some people fall for it. Some people dab in it a little, and some people avoid it. You know, I fell for a lot of it, had some fun with some of it, wish I could avoid mostly all of it, but that's neither here nor there. At the moment, I know we spoke earlier, I'm just happy where I'm at now, still climbing to make myself better. I just had a 44th birthday. Happy about all that's
This is your jersey year, man.
Yeah.
Birthday on March 3rd, born in 76, you're 44, and you wore number 44 for Kansas City. 2020
has been fun. Only thing that's bad so far is this whole epidemic of the coronavirus, so I really have no complaints as of now. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy with where my family and my friends are at. I know who my friends are now. I'm not out here searching and trying to find excitement in each day. I'm happy with each day that approaches. I wake up with a purpose to do things on a daily basis, whether that's hang with friends and play golf or to help the youth at some of these nonprofit places like the Boys and Girls Club, the Incarnation House, and a few other things that I've helped with. So I keep myself busy, not as busy as I probably should be, but busy enough. I'm enjoying life right now.
That's awesome, Eric. Well, I want to thank you for being on Pro Mindset today. I really enjoyed your time and your input and you being very authentic about your successes, your failures, the opportunities that you took advantage of and the opportunities that perhaps you didn't take advantage of. But, hey, I want to wish you the best. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Pro Mindset. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. 5 stars, of course. You can follow us on our website, promindsetpodcast.com, or on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pro Mindset Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you the next time.